our tests, we run it on the exact same.
But locally, I mean?
On Jenkins kind of hosted. Yeah.
No, but like you also run tests locally, right?
We run tests. We tend to have, when we have the kind of our test suite in the Ruby apps, for instance, we use CI gem that will use the same reporting ability. So we actually tweak the tests, the same test that we run. For us, it will be, I think, rank CI all, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't run with our spec. We run with the CI all. We have other tasks for the cucumber.
So where does that
classifier.
CI all run?
We can run it locally on the Docker images, or we can run it on Jenkins. So what I'm saying is the environment is exactly the same that we use on Jenkins for our tests.
Right, but so have you noticed any performance issues with that, like with running, like if you run locally?
Yeah.
Like, do you do TDD? Because I mean, for me, that like I had experience with that, and that was like a huge pain point. It was super slow.
Yeah, you mean from what point? Kind of the iteration sequence?
Yeah, like
we don't use things like
feedback.
guard. We don't use things like guard. We don't use things. Probably we have a different approach, and that's probably why it works for us.
Mm-hmm.
We actually tend to kind of even on our commit kind of pipeline, we do have the guarantee that things are only committed when we see the results from Jenkins that are integrated on Bitbucket. So even if we don't run tests, we cannot merge without those tests being run.
No, I understand that eventually you run them in the Jenkins, but like, if you want to run them continuously, even like guard, not guard, doesn't matter, but like if you want to, write a test, run the test, write some, like do like classical TDD.
So sorry, let me just show you something. Classical TDD, but on the sense you run the test, right? So let me just show you something. I probably skipped this part on the presentation.
It's fast. It's fast.
Yeah. So they kind of used to it. So this is what we tend to do. Dusty, shell. So in here, you can run your tests.
But then assuming all of your services, so like databases, run in separate containers too.
I think that's not a big pain point because they're running on different containers, but they're all on the same server. It's slower than a local machine, of course. Kind of if the processes are running there, but if you do kind of that balance on the tests that don't run because your database is different from his database and from his database, how can you guarantee that all of you guys are running the same tests with the same database?
Oh yeah, that's a different topic.
Yeah, but speed for kind of correctness or at least peace of mind. Yeah, it happens.
But there are a couple of things that we kind of do different. Like, we do have a lot of RAM, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing.
6 gigabytes for Dusty for this setup, and well, actually on my computer I run it here. It's an old one. 6 gigabytes of RAM and 2 cores. But it's limited. It's capped for 2 only. It works really well for us. It's as slow as running on the bare bones machine, definitely. And the advantage is I can be working on my kind of workstation at the office and on this laptop and share the same branch and be kind of doing 2 things with the same setup because of that easiness of kind of the easy that is to replicate the environment. I get your point. It's probably if you're gonna go to kind of not even micro measurement, it will be slower. It has to be, but I think it's kind of we can probably overlook it. My experience is it doesn't add that much. I have 3 guys here that are working with this every day, and I think the experience for them is quite positive. Working with both situations.
Yeah, no, I imagine if you don't do TDD, it's not an issue.
Well, but the way is my actual setup normally is I was asking because of God, because my actual setup is I'd be using an editor on one side, the container on the other side. I'm one command away from running the spec.
Yeah.
And even guard can be used. We just don't use it. There's kind of no need. I think there are issues, especially I'm saying this because I'm using Phoenix a lot, and I'm tweaking the live reload thing. I can get it. It's complicated because Dusty uses NFS.
No, it's not.
But it's possible even doing page reloads and recompilations. On the Phoenix side, I do it all the time. I edit my code on my machine, it precompiles. So you get the events. It's probably possible to even use guard or spring or something like that. So,
So what kind of, how do you manage the database when running tests? Like, do you need like a pre-seeded database when you run the tests, and like after running the test, is it brought back to what it was?
Okay, one of the other, well, just kind of focusing on the Ruby experience. Once said, I just said it's kind of an ongoing process. What we are doing currently is, for one thing, we don't have just common migrations. We have structure and data migrations on production. And what we use on these containers, that's why I was saying that we have kind of 70 megabytes SQL database. We use an anonymized version of production, and the snapshot, I think last one was taken last week. So all of us kind of go from there. Migrations are run on top, so it gets everyone on the same page.
Yeah. But so the tests, actually, some tests depend on the data being there, right?
Some tests, well, we use a lot of Mox, Factory Girl, but yeah, some tests depend on data. We don't rely. But the database used on the CI, for instance, is kind of bare bones with some seeded data, kind of the least one needed for some tests. But actually, we tend to create those needed records on kind of a per test base.
And after each test, you like clean what was made in the database?
Running break-CIOL, it will do that. If you do break-CIOL, it will just kind of reinitiate the database and start it clean. If sometimes we're kind of just iterating, as you said, kind of on a feature, what we would do is kind of, okay, we've run break-CIOL, and now we can do just the RSpec on this particular feature, because there will be no big issues in there.
So you stated that you use the shell script to wait for that database.
Yeah.
And my question is, have you tried to use Dockerize with Dusty to do that instead of having that script?
I'm not sure I got your question. How would you?
So you have this project on GitHub which is Dockerized, which does that.
Okay. Yeah.
Amongst other things, but
kind of orchestration on that.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of probably resistant to change. We've kind of addressed this, I don't know, kind of 3 or 4 months ago. It works. We only use it for the development environment. It's kind of one of the differences. I wasn't quite honest with you guys. We use a slightly different version of the Docker file for production than we use for development, because things like actually bundling the gems can be left to Dusty and not inside the container. Actually, it's a waste of time. Things like, injection variables can be exactly the same, but it's mostly some steps on adding the code, etc. We don't need that on the image because we're going to mount the volume. We will do so in production. We kind of tweak the process. For instance, our Ruby, I think we have 3 or 4 different versions of Ruby images. We build those based on build args. So we just inject on Jenkins. There's a cool plugin, I think, I think it's from CloudBees, to use kind of a Groovy DSL to configure the kind of the Docker jobs, the Jenkins jobs, and we actually have those with build args, so it's easy to kind of flip. But yeah, so I was not 100% honest with you guys, but yeah, it's still replicable. It's still really, really close. Yep.
Is your production configuration different from your development configuration as far as gems installed by bundler goes?
No. Another difference from the other one, we do the install on production with no development test. So it's kind of just the gems that are neither needed on development or test.
So
that's
no
it.
RSpec running on production?
No RSpec running on production.
That's good. Have you had any problems with that? Ever?
No, not at all. And actually we have, in production, we have things being run, just to give you an idea. So I said Monit, it's very easy for us to have in production things like, 4 workers of a kind, plus the web workers. We're using Unicorn, not fancy, but using Unicorn, so we have probably 4 workers per instance. Some queues with rescue, so it's a kind of a different beast, and we can trim down the concurrency on development, because no one wants to kind of be running 4 workers on. By the way, let me just show you something in here. I think I have Monit here, so Monit will give you something like this. It's saying that it's the master process running, and we have web concurrency on, on one probably. So if I do something like, once again, guys, I think Joel help me out. I think it was this one, right? Yeah, currency. Yeah. Me and the typos again.
You can grab the end to see the variable.
Cool. So if I now do, I'm not sure if this is gonna work because it starts on a different context, right?
The variables are exported.
But yeah, so I will just try.
Just
again.
That command, no?
So, and here, not monitored. So if all goes well, I'm not
I think it
kind
goes
of
on.
deceiving you guys. So this will be start. You can start just one. You can start them all. Let's Yeah, I think it will just, it will take the environment value that was injected, so yeah. Probably I could do something like injecting it.
Unless the variable is not that.
So, but this is to say, on a typical production environment, the four of them will be running and the only difference is an environment variable. But it's enough and it's kind of not that bad in terms of memory consumption. Okay. Some of the things that happen. Yeah. So, any more questions?
You said why restart the process when you can restart the container. How much slower is restarting a container?
Okay.
Like in production, when you do deploy.
You actually want the container to fail. So there's kind of, I'm not kind of an expert on this, but I think you do have a way of kind of respawning when you start the container with the Docker run, you can actually set a trigger to respawn the container. I've seen a couple of them failing, and it's sometimes, okay, I'm not lying to you, I'm going to say the process itself, Rails will boot instantly. It won't. But if you destroy that, kind of in a living environment, it will take long too. So the Docker environment to come up is 1 second, something like that.
So you don't have anything like hot code reloading, or how do you call it, like phase restart, like you do
on production, no.
Yeah, okay.
On production,
so like,
no. Well, we do it on, I've done it a couple of times on a running server, but that was on Elixir. I've upgraded the version without stopping, but that's because it's a different thing. But you can actually do that. You can kill workers. We have, I think, 4 machines most of the time running independently, so they're behind the load balancer, so you just take one out.
Right.
And we're also kind of going through the process of migrating everything to Kubernetes and kind of having a different setup for the canary deploys and all the bangs and bells and whistles. But we're getting there. The process is not yet as seamless or as quick as we wished. But yeah.
Right. And another thing, you mentioned you might have multiple apps running in the same container. Did I mishear?
Yeah, well, in this case, not multiple apps on the same container. I probably expressed myself wrongly. It's on the same machine. This one is actually one provided by VirtualBox, Vagrant, I think. It probably uses with Docker machine. If you use Docker for Mac, it will use, I think, X-Hives. But yeah, you're running on the same machine, different containers.
So is there a different container? So like deploying one app will not kill other apps?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Actually, on our if you have them bundled and running as one app on a kind of a Docker file, you could do that. But you can also kind of containerize each app, and those are independent entities, and they will appear on production like this. Okay. If we have this kind of setup on a machine, physical machine on physical whatever, on production it will appear like this. So we can kill one without affecting any other one. So if I quickly do something like, sorry guys, it won't be visible, but if I do something like dusty stop
Not visible.
Kafka. Sorry, this sometimes kind of acts a bit, it's not that good. So yeah, Kafka stopped. It's not appearing here. On the previous one was. So you can. I'm not sure if I can restart it, but I think so. sorry, bear with me for a second. And it's there. So yeah, this is a Java app. Okay, I kind of had some time kind of waiting between the commands, but it's there. So, any more questions? Cool.
So thank you.
Thank you guys.